Alright guys, Tactical here back again today. Hope you're all enjoying your Friday and looking forward to the weekend. Today I wanted to talk about the Seattle Surge. What exactly is wrong with this team right now? What could we do in a theoretical world to improve this team going forwards? It's an interesting situation they do indeed find themselves in. Going to go through a number of different community reactions to this today, especially from some of the players themselves. Like if you guys enjoy the video, I would greatly appreciate it. Subscribe if you are new as always. Let's hop right into things then. First of all, tomorrow and the next day, that being this weekend, April 18th through the 19th, there is a Challengers Cup going on. The weekend after is the Chicago Huntsman home series, but this weekend some of the best teams that aren't in the league are going to be competing in the Challengers Cup online all around the world. There's a big prize pool for this one, as Intel Call of Duty says right here, 25k for North America, 20k in Europe and 5k down in the Asia Pacific region. This is what it looks like. It's going to be live streamed this weekend with some up and coming casters, so should be really good to see. It would be a great thing to go and support as well, especially given the CDL, as you know, they've stepped up their game massively in terms of what they were doing for the Challenger stuff, given the online situation. We didn't have any of this stuff going on when the LAN League was in full session. As you can see right here, will be live streamed on callofduty.com/ or youtube.com/ COD League. So on the main COD League channel, it'll be broadcast this weekend. So I thought I'd bring that to your guys' attention because it should be a pretty fun thing to watch, and I'll definitely mention that throughout the course of the weekend as well. Yesterday, we talked about power rankings. A lot of people not necessarily agreeing with ESPN's power rankings, and to be honest, for good reason. But the Seattle Surge down in 11th, a lot of people, it's tough to argue that the Seattle Surge at least are in the bottom 4 right now. Start of the season, I made a video thinking there'd be a kind of mediocre squad, maybe top 6, maybe something in that ballpark, but I wasn't expecting them to have quite the poor start to the season that it turns out they have had. Of course, after the first couple of performances, they swapped Enable app, brought Panda into the squad. There's been a whole discussion around that. Octane saying that, you know, of course, Panda would get in any team, like, or at least he deserves his spot in the league. Octane was doing some posts on Reddit saying that Panda definitely deserves a spot in the team, and most professionals would agree. But then there's the other half of it saying that, oh, Panda's good friends with Octane. Maybe that's part of the reason why he's in the squad. Enable, of course, getting benched off the team. At the time, Enable comes out and says, as we will look at in the coming minutes here, that, like, he wasn't performing, he wasn't putting the hours in necessary. So, look, that was a fair play from Seattle to bench him at the time, but he does feel like now he is in a good position to come back and improve this team. But as he said a couple of times, whether he comes back and competes on Seattle or elsewhere doesn't really matter too much to him, and obviously it's clearly a difficult situation right now to sub him back into the squad. Is that a move that's going to work? Who knows? Who do you sub him in for? That's another question entirely. So let's go through it here then. This is a tweet from Octane over a month ago now. How the hell did I get in this position? Whether this is referring to his team situation or what, kind of sets the season. Of course, obviously, over the last month or so, we have the whole global pandemic situation, but now we find ourselves in the online league, where even in the online league, Seattle Surge not performing, despite Octane putting up good numbers. But, you know, you kind of expect Octane to put up good numbers, given the role he is playing in the squad. So, thanks to Lion Man for these graphics I'm just about to put up on screen right here. This was the most recent performance at the Dallas home series. You know, Octane with a 1.45 in hardpoint, 1.28 in domination. Search, not pretty at all across the board, you know, but just on the whole, not many series played here, so difficult to judge, kind of. But Apathy with an especially weak performance this weekend. You know, of course, that's understandable. Karma talked about post-event that Apathy's just had a baby, I think, in the last couple of weeks, so, you know, once again, massive congratulations. But at the same time, you could argue that if you know that Apathy's going to be in this difficult situation with practice and all of this kind of stuff, you could sub him out for Proto. That's why you have Proto on the bench, or Enable, for example. You know, you've got Panda brought into the team now. You've got Proto sitting there, Enable sitting there. If you're gonna, that's the whole reason you have these players, right? Is if you need to make a substitute for some unexpected event like this, I suppose. Even though I guess it is expected, really, but you never really know when it's gonna happen. But regardless, that could have been an option, right? So it's tough to make that excuse, given that you could have planned for this earlier, right? So they finish in top 8 position right here. These are the stats over the course of the season. So just as a little bit of a preliminary to the discussion we'll give in the last couple of minutes here. Octane sitting at a 1.28. He's obviously been pretty marvellous, but it's not to say that he is the only shining light of the team and everyone else is playing awful and it's just Octane playing well. As Enable we'll talk about here in a couple of minutes' time. Of course, it's a bigger team issue than that. You could say a very similar thing about Wuskin on the London team. He's dropping a 1.4. Obviously, he's playing great COD in terms of, well, he's aiming very nicely. But in terms of the whole team chemistry and the rest of the team, they're obviously not doing so well. And I'm sure Wiskin would prefer to have a 1.2 and the rest of his team would prefer him to be on a 1.2, not a 1.4, and the rest of the guys to get more action. So it's always very, very difficult to look at a team and dissect exactly what the problems are. So I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Apathy, honestly, so far this season had been very good, I thought, apart from this very most recent event. It was online. Maybe you wouldn't expect him to be as good online as he is on LAN. Very experienced LAN player, of course. Veteran of the scene, 2 times world champion for sure. And Kambo at a 0.93, Panda most recently has dropped to Bonta 1, slacked at a 0.9, and Neighbor when he was on the team a 0.87. So obviously not pretty outside of what Octane's been putting up, and I suppose pre-season you might have been able to see this one coming, right? Because Octane obviously expected to be super, super strong as he was. Like, he was probably one of the foundational pieces of any team you would put him on. However, maybe due to salary cap and situations like that, you could argue that Octane went onto this team and couldn't be on a better team because they required more, more salary, right? I'm sure Octane's making an absolute bag right here. But looking at the rest of the squad, especially at the start of the season, what I was saying, what a lot of people were saying, was that they have players that play so similar role. Like, they had Karma, they had Slacked, and Enable. All of those guys have been kind of support players over the last few years. Karma has been kind of a slayer when he needs to be, but clearly not really doing it this season and probably past his best in terms of peak performance, right? I don't think that's difficult to argue, given especially how good he was back in the Black Ops 2 and Ghost days. He transformed his career and the role he played on the team in the OpTic Gaming Dynasty, did that role really, really well indeed. But you look at the gunning squads right now, they're guys with a lot of slaying power. I'm not sure Karma quite has that, right? And you've got Karma and Slack still on the squad. It's a little bit difficult to make that work. Apathy, of course, in an online environment, maybe isn't going to be as good as that second slayer to Octane that you would want in a LAN environment. And of course, we know how good he is when it comes down to the World Championships, but we're not there yet, right? So that's always the thing people talk about with Apathy. And then Panda comes into the squad, not exactly like he's been gunning people, it's not exactly like he's been playing poorly, but pretty mediocre. He's not exactly taken over the game. When you look at Atlanta FaZe, for example, they've got Simp dropping a 1.3 and Celium dropping a 1.3. It's, we need to get that action out of some of the other SMGs, right? At least get some decent performances going. And no one else is really stepping it up to the plate quite yet. So really intriguing to see what direction this team takes. Maybe it just needs a mass overhaul, which is not something that I would see as completely unreasonable. This is what Karma comes out and says, crazy where we could be if we could win a search and destroy. So let's have a look real quick at their record over the course of the season. These are their matches so far. And as you can tell, it's not pretty. They won 2 games, both against the Los Angeles Guerrillas, one of which in a surprising Game 5, they actually won a Game 5, but every other Game 5 they've played this season, they have lost. Game 5 has really been their kryptonite. The very first event, losing to Mutineers, Game 5. Some of these have been round 11s as well. Ultra in a Game 5, then they get crushed by the Dallas Empire at London, beat Guerrillas in a Game 5, then lose to Dallas again, then lose to Minnesota. So they're losing to relatively good teams. But then you come to this weekend and they lose 2 Game 5s again, right? At this point, it's just not acceptable, frankly. The first few weekends, you can accept, okay, they're losing to Dallas Empire, a strong team. They're beating the Guerrillas at least, and they're losing a couple of Game 5s. But given this has been such a prevalent issue with the squad going forwards, it's just inexcusable in my opinion. Yes, of course, these events, it wasn't ideal with the online environment. That Game 4 as a cave, the servers really did not treat them very well. So look, through that lens, not ideal at all for Surge, and excuses can be made. But at the end of the day, the record speaks for itself, right? On LAN and online. And it seems to me like something's got to change. So let's have a look at some comments from Enable here on the Reddit. This was from a month ago when Octane did that tweet about, what the hell's going on right now. And, the initial tweet here was, or the initial Reddit comment was implying that Enable and the rest of the team needs to get out of the way and let Octane get on with it. That's what Enable says. Octane should and does always have good stats. He's a main AR who baits everyone, kind of as a main AR should. I think Octane's nasty, but if you think the issue is an individual player or think Sam is playing correctly and no one else is, then you are wrong. That's coming from me watching this weekend, a month ago now, so this would be the Los Angeles Home Series event. It is a fundamental issue of how the team is playing together, which is making it hard for everyone. Sam is as big of an issue as everyone else. No drama at all. It's just the bigger picture. Octane is disgusting. When I see Reddit acting like the rest of the team is costing him, I have to enlighten them that that's a team issue. That reminds me, or that includes me, when I was in the starting lineup as well. Every main AR should have good stats. This is some more recent stuff from a few days ago. I know I was dropped because I wasn't grinding enough, but since I got benched, I've been putting in a lot of hours. I know I should be a starter for a team. I'm always better mid to late in the game when I figure out the game, but who knows what will happen. So whether he gets a chance on Seattle or whether he goes elsewhere, who knows exactly what goes on right now. And I saw this on the Reddit that I thought was kind of funny as well. Meet Juan, a rising star that could help a struggling Seattle, but John with a moustache on. So, you know, interesting. Of course, we've heard these rumors behind the scenes that John is not, you know, he's banned from this year of competition. Only this year, supposedly for, well, I don't want to get into the rumors once again, but supposedly he's banned for this year at least. Who knows what happens next year, but in theory, he would be a great fit here, right? On the MP5, some more slaying power to go upside there. And I've seen some really interesting tweets about what could potentially happen with this team, and a lot of people suggesting a major overhaul here. Fact of the matter is, does this team improve with like one change? I mean, they tried Panda for Enable. You know, nothing really has changed in the squad. You bring Enable back in for Panda or someone, like, you know, what changes, right? You bring Enable in for Slacked. Is that really going to change the complexion of the team? Personally, I don't think so. I just don't think the slaying power is there. They're not going to be able to compete with some of the, you know, the high slaying, you know, powers in the game right now, especially given how stacked some of these teams are at the top of the league. You know, the Atlanta FaZes of the world, the Chicago Huntsmans of the world, Dallas, of course, you can throw in the mix, and now Florida right now putting up incredible slaying numbers for most of their guys. And then Minnesota Rocker as well, who not only have great slaying, but incredible team cohesion and chemistry, which clearly Seattle Surge don't have. So do you know, complete an entire team overhaul? That may be the only way to make this team a championship contender. I personally don't really think you're even 2 changes away from being a championship contender. Of course, you keep Octane, you probably keep Apathy, and you probably keep Karma. What do you do with the rest of the team? Who really knows, right? But I would prefer Karma to just be in that support role where he's always been and just have him as that main guy in the support role. And Panda and Slacked, and well, maybe you have to upgrade Panda in terms of the slaying role, and then Slacked, maybe you just have to let him go. Who knows? But these are a couple of suggestions right here from Magnus on Twitter. New Seattle Surge, Octane, Karma, Dashy, Pristini, Looney. Interesting team. I'm not sure that Looney is entirely necessary in this squad, but then again, Looney and Octane have had success in the past on the Rise Nation team in the Black Ops 3 days. Maybe this could work. I think keeping Karma is probably a good idea. I think Apathy is also an option, but Pristini, if possible, could work. I'm not saying this is a team that has any chance of happening this season. Fact of the matter is, contracts are incredibly difficult to deal with, and realistically, Surge are only going to be able to make a 1, maybe 2-person change the rest of the season. This is probably something that, if it is going to happen, you would see from next season forward. So it's not an immediate fix, but, you know, what can you do right now if you're Seattle Surge management? This is an option. This is what Inflammable Fire said as well. Octane Brack, which I kind of like that as a shout, actually. Dashy, if, of course, the rumor is he's starting on OpTic Gaming right now, and I doubt he would even go to this team. Pristini mentioned again, and keeping Apathy. So interesting. I personally, if I had to make a decision right now on this squad, I would keep these top 3 players, and I would seriously think about what else I can do with this squad right now. Think about what Florida did, picking up Ferro. New York Subliners have done it with Mac, right? There's a lot of players out there that are in the amateur side of things that would relish an opportunity to be able to play with these guys. Of course, travel globally is a bit of an issue right now, but that's definitely something that you could consider. Some of the top tier amateur players, maybe some guys off Singularity, Chain, maybe one of these lads could be really invigorating to this squad, because as we've talked about the whole season, slaying power is an issue right here, and they're not going to be a championship contender without it. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always. Thanks for watching, and appreciate your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll see you next time.